Hey, this is Ari. I recently sat down with brain health expert and functional neurologist, Dr. Titus Chu. We had an epic conversation on the podcast, and I wanted to share this little clip with you from that podcast and also encourage you to click the link below, check out the full episode. Lots of value in there, so enjoy this little clip.
Exploring what is the root cause of all of this. Like, what's the root cause of brain fatigue? And concussion is a common trigger for it. But the reason for that is because concussion is a common trigger for brain inflammation, right? What we call neural inflammation. So as an example, and there's so many different pathways to neural inflammation, as you know, right? Concussion is just one of them, right? There's a physical trauma that you can have to your brain that can then trigger an inflammatory response in a person's nervous system. But as you know, so can like a gut infection that can also trigger brain inflammation, leading to brain fatigue or just overall fatigue. So there's these different triggers and stressors on the nervous system that when it leads to inflammation, that's one of the biggest root causes I see for brain fatigue. And so, but in particular, when we talk about concussion, right, what I found is one of the major reasons, and by the way, as you know, right, and most of your audience probably knows, inflammation, even inflammation in the nervous system, it's a natural part of the healing response. We need inflammation to protect us from, the critters and, viruses and bacteria, even toxins or dietary food proteins that we're exposed to, right? It's part of the healing response. But the problem is when it gets stuck in that on position, right? When that inflammation becomes chronic. And there's a whole cascade that happens within the nervous system related to what we call microglial cells, which are the immune cells of the brain. And when they get stuck in that on position, they, instead of helping to clean up debris and heal the brain, they become inflammatory and they shift into these states that become really damaging to the nervous system. So the question is, and that's what I've seen a lot with concussions in particular, but what ends up happening, one of the reasons why people get stuck in these inflammatory states of their nervous system and experience things like brain fatigue is because of what's known as leaky brain, right? A breakdown of the blood-brain barrier. And so really briefly, the blood-brain barrier is this single cell layer that protects our brain from like external forces that are trying to come in and wreak havoc, like things like bacteria, viruses, toxins, chemicals. But what I found is after concussion and what the research shows, leaky brain, there's that you can actually have a tear of the blood-brain barrier. And that was actually a big part of my my hitting rock bottom as well. And so I see that with a lot of my patients after concussion. They have a tear of the blood-brain barrier. Then that triggers this massive inflammatory response. But guess what? The inflammation continues to damage the blood-brain barrier and becomes this vicious cycle. And so for those of you out there who don't know what the blood-brain barrier is, it's similar to the gut barrier, right? We have all these different barriers throughout our bodies. We have the gut barrier, we have the lung barrier, we have the skin barrier, and then we have the blood-brain barrier. So it's similar to that, right? But just like you can have leaky gut, you can also have leaky brain. So that's what I discovered, right? A lot of my patients after concussion, especially the ones that didn't heal and recover, is, typically within a matter of weeks, people heal after a concussion. But just like me, it took me years to heal. And a big part of it was because of this leaky brain. And that's what I found almost 99% of the time across the board with my patients after concussion. But again, the interesting thing is when we talk about root causes, concussion isn't the only thing that can trigger a leaky brain, right? So can stress, believe it or not. Like the toxic hormones, like in excessive amounts, can actually damage the blood-brain barrier. So can chemical toxins. That can also lead to things, to a breach of the blood-brain barrier. So the list goes on and on. But my point is what I found across the board, right? Number one, inflammation, big common root cause for brain fatigue, right? And especially brain inflammation, aka neural inflammation. And number two, one of the most common reasons why I see people get stuck in that inflammatory cycle is leaky brain.
Hey, this is Ari. I hope you enjoyed this video. And one more thing before you go. Actually, two more things. One is if you enjoyed this particular little clip, the link to the full-length podcast is in the description down below. So make sure to check that out. Also, one more thing. Let me ask you a question. What if I could show you how to double your energy levels and dramatically improve your brain function, reducing your anxiety and depression to a degree on par with antidepressant drugs, but without the side effects? Sound pretty interesting? Well, there are, in fact, numerous compounds that can do this, that have been shown to do this. And I'll take you through just a few of these very briefly. One of them is rhodiola rosea. And this has been shown in studies, rhodiola rosea extract, in people with stress-related fatigue and exhaustion to cut their levels of fatigue and brain fog in half in less than a month. Just this one compound. There's another compound in my formula Energenesis called NT factor phospholipids that's been shown to help repair mitochondrial membranes and mitochondrial health to the level of healthy 29-year-olds, taking people with deteriorated mitochondria who are over the age of 65, restoring it to the level of healthy 29-year-olds. And that has been shown in numerous studies in various types of chronic fatigue, aging-associated chronic fatigue, obesity-related chronic fatigue syndrome, to increase energy levels by 30 to 45% in the span of 4 to 12 weeks, depending on the specific study. So dramatic improvements in a very, very short period of time. Two more compounds that are amazing, I highly recommend, that are in my formula Ultra Brain, along with rhodiola rosea. Saffron extract. This has been shown to increase levels of, improve your mood, I should say, and decrease levels of depression on par with fluoxetine, which is Prozac. And not only that, but with fewer side effects. It's much safer and much less likely to cause negative effects than antidepressant drugs are. Acetyl L-carnitine is another compound that's been shown to dramatically improve brain health in older adults. It also improves energy levels in older adults with chronic fatigue by between 40 to 50% in just the span of 2 to 4 months. And the last thing I'll mention here is acetyl L-carnitine has also been compared to antidepressant drugs and been shown, like saffron, to be as effective as antidepressant drugs in combating depression, but without the harmful side effects that so often occur with the drugs. So this is just a small sampling of the over 35 compounds that are in my formulas Energenesis and Ultra Brain that are all proven to dramatically improve energy levels, mitochondrial health, and brain health, and much, much more. And I highly recommend that you go check these out. If you're struggling with depression or anxiety or brain fog, if you're struggling with stress-related exhaustion and burnout, if you're struggling with chronic fatigue, go check out these formulas, give them a shot. I promise you are going to be blown away by the results. And like I said, the science has already proven that these things work. So you don't have to just take my word for it. There's lots of research to support that. And I'll even link to some of that research down below so you can verify everything that I just said for yourself. So the links to those studies will be in the description for this video down below. So check them out. Check out the formulas on the energyblueprint.com. Again, Energenesis is the mitochondrial formula, and Ultra Brain is our brain formula. Check them out, try them out, and I think you're going to be blown away by the results. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you again soon.